If you're a buyer and you want to hire a real estate agent to work with you, to represent you, to help you find a home, and then of course write you an offer and navigate you all the way through the negotiations that happen throughout a real estate transaction, we're gonna have to have this discussion. I could meet you at that house and show you the property, and literally everyone when we're done could just go home. In today's fiercely competitive real estate market, the value of having a dedicated buyer's agent is unparalleled. You wouldn't navigate legal, financial, or tax matters without a professional advice, and the same principle applies to buying a home. Yet many overlook the critical role a realtor plays, not just in finding a great house, but in building wealth through astute property choices. It's time to recognize that a buyer's agent is as vital as an attorney or a CPA. Securing the right home at the right price requires more than just negotiating the selling price. Comprehensive buyer representation covers everything from transactional details to negotiating upgrades and closing costs. This not only saves you money, but also steers you through the maze of potential pitfalls in the market. Are you looking to navigate the complexities of the real estate market with confidence? Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell with releases of new videos every week that you won't want to miss. Don't forget to like and share this video if you found it helpful. We love hearing from you, so please leave comments below and your thoughts on buyer representation and any questions you might have about the real estate market. So buyers, you need to realize that things are about to dramatically change in the real estate market. The way that you used to buy a house and the way you're going to buy a house going forward are going to be completely different. So in the past, if you were a buyer, you could literally go online, jump and find an agent. You could go to an open house, find any cousin or whatever, just got a real estate license, and you could just use them to help you go buy a house. But in today's market, what's going to happen, and when this NAR settlement becomes official, and as of right now, it's not official, but it is proposed and likely it is going to happen, is that you're now going to have to get contractually with a real estate agent. So what does that mean? You're going to have to sit down now and basically go through what we're going to do for you, how we're going to represent you, all the details, and we're going to figure out what the compensation is going to be paid to a buyer's agent. So if you want good representation now, we're going to have to figure that part up front. Where in the past, lots of realtors would just say, hey, we can help you go buy a house and you don't pay us anything, it's free, because the seller was offering out some sort of compensation through the MLS and what's called a buyer's compensative agreement. Now that's going to go away. It's not going to be marketed and advertised in the MLS anymore. It will be advertised somewhere going forward if sellers agree to still offer out some sort of compensation. We're just not 100% sure how that's going to work yet, but I'm assuming either on flyers or QR codes on a sign, or whether it could be a landing page. When we're talking about all the details and we're marketing a house, you're gonna see that stuff. But right now, if you go on Zillow or Realtor.com or Redfin or any of these websites that people are using to search for homes, you're just gonna see the details, prices, bedrooms, bathrooms, all the details about a house, but you're not gonna see that compensation shared anywhere online like that. It's either gonna have to be through a personal realtor website or in some other form that we mentioned that we're not sure exactly how this is going to play out in real life. But for buyers right now, if you called me and said, Brian, hey, you have a listing at XYZ123 and we want you to show it to me, I could meet you at that house and show you the property, and literally everyone when we're done could just go home. But going forward, if you did that and say you called on one of my listings and you wanted me to show that house, I literally on the hood of my car and we're going to have to sit down and do some paperwork with you. In our state, it's called a buyer representation agreement. I know from reading it over and looking at it, it's something that we could have used all this time, but then we're also going to have some other forms. One's called the duties owed form that talks about me and my company and my license number. We're going to represent you as a buyer. I have to have a supplement to that form because I have a team. So I have 3 other licensed agents that work with me that at some point or another you may meet or talk to or are going to be part of your transaction. And then we're going to even have another form that's called the consent to act that says in Nevada, it is legal. I can represent the buyer and the seller in the same transaction, which is called dual agency. And in some states, they don't allow for dual agency. But there's that form that says, hey, if you want to see as a buyer one of my listings, it's possible I could be representing both parties in that transaction. So we're going to talk about all of this stuff up front. At the same time, we're also going to talk about how are you going to be able to pay for a house. So whether you're a cash buyer, we're going to need a proof of funds statement. We talk to a lender and we get you pre-approved for a loan. And not only are we going to get pre-approved for a loan, but we're going to have to know what kind of concessions we may need to ask for. And what are concessions? Well, they can be used for things like closing costs, repair allowances. They could be used for rate buy downs. And going forward, I think you're going to start to see some of this for realtor compensation. And so how buyers on the buyer side of things are going to change is you're literally going to have to come in and meet with somebody and do all this paperwork up front. It's not going to be just run out and see homes anymore. And you're going to end up working exclusively with one agent. Now, these agreements could be as short as, Brian, I want to hire you to just show me this one house. Or they could be as long as like listing agreements where we can do them for 3 or 6 or 12 months at a time, depending on how we know each other and how we want to work together. So there's going to be a lot of difference in paperwork going forward. Now, once we do all those things and we start to go look at houses and see homes and do all that stuff, as a buyer, it's just going to change a lot. Are you considering buying or selling a home in Reno, Nevada? Don't miss out on our exclusive free buyer's guide designed to help you navigate the market with ease. Click the link in the video description below and get your copy now. This guide is packed with valuable tips and insights that can make a significant difference in your real estate decisions. Compensation. If you're a buyer and you want to hire a real estate agent to work with you, to represent you, to help you find a home, and then, of course, write you an offer and navigate you all the way through the negotiations that happen throughout a real estate transaction, we're going to have this discussion. Other states have been using some form of agreement like this already. Other states are not. We're one of those that's going to be new to this. Just like you did with a seller, buyer and I are going to sit down, we're going to talk about all these things, and we're going to agree on some form of compensation. So let's just say, for argument's sake, we're going to use 2.5% as the compensation that you are agreeing to pay me to work for you. Agents and sellers are going to be potentially offering out either no commission or some sort of commission. Now, if they're offering out a 2.5% commission on this particular house that you like, great. We write them an offer. Everything's great because everyone knows how everybody's getting paid. What happens if they're offering more than that 2.5%? What if they're offering less than that 2.5%? How are we going to negotiate these things within the transactions, whether we are asking the seller? And again, you could always do this. So if a commission was being offered in the multiple listing service, as a buyer's agent, you didn't have to agree to that being your only compensation. You could always write into offers as long as your buyer was okay with it, asking for more cooperating compensation to be paid to you as the agent because maybe they were offering a really low rate. Or if that doesn't work, the buyer's going to have to figure out some sort of way to come out of pocket to pay us as well. Now, we all know right now for buyers, the number one issue is affordability. And if you're having problems already coming up with a down payment and you're coming with closing costs, and now you're worried how to pay for representation, this is going to be a problem for some buyers because, again, we know affordability is the number one problem. But if you were to think of your realtor in the same way that you think of your CPA or your attorney or your lawyer, do you want someone really good representing you or do you not want someone good representing you? And that's going to be a decision people have to make. You could go it alone, but the problem's going to be this. I know for me, when I represent sellers, and my company is if there was an unrepresented buyer and they came and saw one of my listings and then they wanted to be unrepresented or they said, hey, we're going to write you an offer. I don't know what paperwork they're going to use. I guess you could go online and find offers, but I go, my insurance is going to have a problem with that. My brokerage is probably going to have a problem with that. And so there's going to be some difficulties going forward with where are these contracts coming from? Because I know our contracts that we use to help buyers and sellers are all vetted by the board of realtors, looked at by attorneys in our companies, and we're all using similar forms. But if you are an unrepresented buyer that says, I can't afford representation, I'd like to go out and do this on my own, I can't give you the paperwork that I use. And whatever paperwork you're going to use is going to be really interesting to see what we come up with. So how we're going to officially navigate this going forward, if this whole NAR settlement and these changes start to go in place later on this year, then I'm sure there's going to be some ways that we work around some of these things. Things like financing, whether they're conventional or FHA or VA loans or USDA loans, they all have different limits on what some sort of compensation or some sort of concession can be. And are they going to allow for commissions or ways for buyers to pay their agents to be funneled into the deal? That will be interesting to see how that plays out. Also, it's going to be interesting as sellers, are they going to decide to not offer out compensation to these agents? And I think that they should, because again, it's a marketing tool for a seller to be able to let all these buyers know that if you want to buy my house, you don't have to worry about how you're going to pay your agent. We're offering out, more of a traditional full commission. How you find a realtor to help you on the buying side and who you use is going to become so much more critical than it was in the past, because again, now, if you're trying to go it alone, which you could, I think it's a terrible idea, that's going to be an issue. But how you find your realtor, I never understood why buyers, and on the buyer side of things, they don't do the research like you do on the selling side. So I can be sitting watching TV at home and I see the commercials all the time, whether it's Homelight or a million other companies like Homelight, or whether you go searching online and Dave Ramsey will find you one, or whether it's Fast Expert or Agent Pronto or Zillow or Realtor.com or Soul. There's so many of them that you can go find a realtor. Are these people any good? We talked about this in some other videos about experience. And I talked about with realtors, you're going to definitely want experienced realtors to navigate you through this process going forward, especially the rest of this year and into next year, because we're not sure how this is going to play out. But I would say this, just because someone has gray hair like me, or maybe says they've been doing this for 20 years, doesn't necessarily make them an experienced realtor. What you want to find out is start asking questions, and we can provide you a list of questions to ask is, how many transactions have they done? How many buyers have they represented? How can I talk to some of your past clients to find out what they thought about the way you do things? Because the way this works is this. I know people that have licenses for 20 years and maybe they do 5 deals a year. That's 100 deals. There have been years my team by ourselves did 100 deals in 1 year. So who's more experienced? Me in 1 year doing 100 or them doing 120 years? It could be a 25-year-old, a 55-year-old, an 80-year-old. It doesn't matter that part of it. It's a matter of how much time have they spent going through these transactions. So this is going to be somewhat confusing going forward, because if you read the headlines and what the politicians are saying, I mean, how the other day we listened to Joe Biden make a comment about the end of the 6% real estate commission is going away. And that has not been a thing in 30 years in my business. I've only been doing it that long, whether I was licensed or not. My team has been in business that long. So I don't know what happened before that, but if you go talk to the real OG realtors, they'll tell you 6% has never been a standard fee. If you have questions, comments, reach out below. How you find someone is going to be very critical and important going forward. And we'll do follow-ups on this because we're not exactly sure how this is exactly going to play out in real life. But if you're someone out there looking to buy a home, what I want you to be able to figure out is, what can I afford? What payment makes me comfortable? And look for something that not necessarily is going to be your dream home, but might be your first or second home on the way to getting to your dream home, or keeping these homes as rental property going forward. And there's lots of ways to be able to generate big time wealth with good quality help. So just make sure you know who you're working with. Interested in learning more about why successful real estate transactions are all about relationships and why representation is key? Check out our next video where we dive deeper into the importance of having the right support in your real estate journey.